Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining today's private conference. The title of today's presentation is Improvements to Modeling Climate Data in Demand Forecasting. My name is Laka Werpu. I am with Demand Analysis Branch in Energy Assessment Division at California Energy Commission. Today, I will provide a brief overview of the RFP, including the background, scope of work, evaluation criteria, and submission process. After the presentation, we will open the floor for questions. Next slide. To start, I would like to go over a few quick housekeeping items for today's session. First, all materials related to this solicitation can be found on the request for proposal web page. The specific listing is RFP-25-803, titled Improvements to Modeling Climate Data in Demand Forecasting. If you need to revisit anything from today's session, the workshop recording will also be posted on that web page. For those joining us virtually, we are using Zoom for participation. If you would like to ask a question during the session, please use the raise hand feature or submit your question through the Q&A function. If you are participating by telephone, you can raise your hand by dialing *9. If you prefer to submit question in writing, you may email them directly to the Commission Agreement Officer, Natalia Caldero, at the email address shown on the slide. Please include RFP-25-803 private conference in the subject line so your message can be properly routed. Finally, please note that the deadline for submitting written question is today, March 4th, 2026, by 5 p.m. Next slide.
This slide provides some background on energy planning and forecasting. Under Senate Bill 1389, the California Energy Commission is required to prepare the Integrated Energy Policy Report, or IPER, every 2 years. This report evaluates many aspects of California's energy system, including supply, production, transportation, distribution, demand, and prices. The demand forecast produced in the IPER helps support electricity system planning and procurement decisions. To improve forecasting, the CEC also estimates how future weather and climate conditions may affect energy demand, both annually and on an hourly basis. Beginning in 2023, the CEC started analyzing 4 global climate model outputs from CalAdapt, which provide high-resolution climate data at a 3 kilometer by 3 kilometer grid resolution localized to specific weather stations. 4 additional downscaled models became available in 2024 as well. The initial or the 2023 climate model outputs were used to develop forecast inputs such as hourly temperature, dew points, and annual heating and cooling degree days. Next slide. RFP timeline. This slide outlines the key dates for the RFP process. The RFP was released on February 23rd, 2026. The deadline for submitting written questions and the private conference both take place on today. Response to questions alongside with any addenda, if available, to the RFP will be distributed on March 11th, 2026. The deadline to submit proposals is March 25th by 11:59 p.m. Following the proposal review, the notice of proposed award is expected on April 8th, 2026, and the item will go before the Commission business meeting on June 22nd, 2026. Finally, the contract is expected to begin on July 1st, 2026 and run through June 30th, 2028. Next slide. the RFP purpose. This RFP is focused on supporting the Energy Commission's effort to improve how climate data is used in energy demand forecasting. The selected contractor will help incorporate improved climate data, downscale projections, and advanced modeling techniques into electricity and gas demand forecasting and system planning. The contractor will also provide technical expertise in climate data processing and modeling, supporting broader intra-agency research efforts to improve the use of global climate model outputs in forecasting. In addition, the work includes assessing differences between available climate model datasets and analyzing and comparing large datasets such as historical weather data, climate model outputs, and existing demand model inputs. Finally, the contractor will help develop climate-informed projections for key weather-related energy variables, including heating and cooling degree days, temperature and speed, wind speed, cloud cover, solar irradiance, and water availability. Next slide. This slide highlights several key elements of the RFP. First, the submission requirements are described in the RFP starting on page 12, including the proposal format, required documents, and delivery instructions. The proposal evaluation process has two main steps. The first step is an administrative and completeness screening to ensure that all required materials are included. The second step is the technical and cost evaluation, where proposals are scored according to the evaluation criteria outlined in the RFP. Task 1 covers the general requirements and overall project management, including activities such as the kickoff meeting, invoicing, subcontractor management, progress reporting, and preparation of the final report. Next slide. This slide introduces task 2, which focuses on climate data processing and model input development. Under this task, the contractor will help expand and enhance how climate data is used within the Energy Commission's forecasting models. The contractor will also develop climate-informed projections for key weather-related variables that are used in energy demand and supply modeling. Another important component is identifying and addressing potential bias in climate-related model inputs and recommending improvements to how climate projections are incorporated into annual and hourly demand forecasts. The work includes analyzing climate data to better account for emerging climate challenges such as recurring heat waves, snowpack and water availability, wildfires, and other climate-related impacts on energy demand. Next slide. This slide outlines task 3, which focuses on reviewing modeling approaches and supporting stochastic dataset development. Under this task, the contractor will review the current demand forecasting modeling methods used by the Energy Commission and help identify ways to better incorporate climate impacts into models that don't currently account for climate change. The contractor will also provide weather-related inputs to support the development of stochastic datasets for weather-sensitive components of the demand forecast, such as PV generation and additional achievable fuel substitution or AAFS models. In addition, this work will help align modeling approaches across different agencies involved in related efforts. The contractor will also prepare supporting documentation for model inputs to ensure transparency and consistency in the modeling process. Next slide. Task 4 focuses on workshops, stakeholder engagement, and communication support. Under this task, the contractor will help prepare workshop presentations, technical briefings, and supporting documentation related to the project. They will also present at IPER workshops and participate in technical meetings such as Demand Analysis Working Group or DOG, as well as climate-focused groups like Climate Data Analysis Working Group or CDOG. In addition, the contractor will assist with drafting reports and technical memos and help respond to stakeholder questions or inquiries related to the work. Next slide. Task 5 covers miscellaneous technical support that may be needed throughout the project. This includes providing additional assistance with climate data tasks, as well as analytical support, modeling assistance, and interpretation of climate data when needed. The contractor may also support related technical analysis or emerging needs during the project period. Deliverables for this task may include technical memos, data sets, and analytical code used to support the analysis. Next slide. This slide summarizes the evaluation scoring for the proposals. Under this RFP, the maximum total score available is 100 points. Proposals will be evaluated based on the technical and cost criteria outlined in the RFP. To remain eligible for award, proposals must achieve a minimum passing score of 70 points or 70%. Next slide. This slide outlines how proposals will be scored across several evaluation categories. The technical approach carries 25 points. Team qualifications, capabilities, and resources account for 20 points, while previous work products contributes 10 points. There are also 2 specific qualification categories, which are demand forecasting related, worth 5 points, and climate data analysis related, worth 10 points. And finally, the total expected labor cost represents 30 points. Next slide. This slide explains how proposals should be submitted. Details on the proposal formats, required documents, and delivery instructions can be found section 3 of the RFP starting on page 13. All proposals must be submitted through the Energy Commission grant solicitation system, which is the CEC's online platform for submitting application materials. Applicants will upload their electronic documents through the system before the submission deadline stated in the RFP. Finally, please remember that the deadline to submit proposals is March 25th, 2026 by 11:59 p.m. Late submission will not be accepted. Next slide. Grounds to reject a proposal. This slide highlights where applicants can find the information on grounds for proposal rejection. Details on this on the ground to reject the proposal are outlined in the application manual on pages 37 through 38. Applicants are encouraged to review this section carefully to ensure their submission meets all the requirements and complies with the solicitation guidelines. Next slide. This slide provides guidance regarding confidential information. Applicants should not include any confidential information in their proposal submissions. This requirement is outlined in application manual on page 34. All materials submitted through the solicitation process may be subject to public disclosure, so proposals should be prepared accordingly. Next slide. Disabled Veteran Business Enterprise, or DVBE. This slide outlines the DVBE participation requirement. For this solicitation, DVBE participation is mandatory, with the requirement of at least 3% of total contract value to be allocated to a certified DVBE. Proposals that include participation above the 3% minimum may receive DVBE incentive points, which are added to the non-cost portion of the proposal score during evaluation. Additional details and guidance on meeting this requirement can be found in solicitation manual page 24 through 29. Next slide. Small business and micro business. This slide explains the small business preference available for this solicitation. Bidders that are certified by the state of California as a small business may receive a 5% preference in the evaluation process. To qualify for this preference, bidders must submit 3 required documents. The first document is a copy of their small business certification. The second document is a contractor status form. And the third document is a small business preference claim form. Additional details about eligibility documentation requirements can be found in solicitation manual on page 29 through 31. Next slide. Submitting questions. This slide explains how to submit questions during the RFP process. All clarifying questions must be directed to the Commission Agreement Officer, Natalia Calderon, using the email address shown on the slide. Questions may be submitted by mail or email, but they must be received by 5 p.m. today. Responses to submitted questions will be posted on the RFP solicitation webpage for RFP-25-803. Finally, please note that verbal communication with the CEC staff is not binding and cannot change any terms of this RFP. For that reason, all questions should be submitted in writing to the Commission Agreement Officer. Next slide. That concludes the overview of the RFP. At this point, we all open the floor for any questions. If you are joining through Zoom, please use the raise hand feature or the Q&A box, and we will call on you in turn. If you prefer, you may also submit written questions to the Commission Agreement Officer by the stated deadline. Thank you, and we are happy to take your question. Okay.
Just go ahead and read them aloud.
You want me to? No, Nick.
Okay, yours.
So we have a couple questions in chat already. The first, I'll just go ahead and read. The call mentions a specific methodology for downscaling the global models based on WRF. Is it mandatory to use the specific methodology? Could be used machine learning based solutions for the downscaling. So I think just broadly about downscaling. So this solicitation, we're seeking to leverage the rather extensive body work that has already been done to downscale a lot of the global climate model projections. So we wouldn't be looking to reinvent the wheel in this regard. This is really more about using, like I said, leveraging that already downscaled data and translating to inputs that we can use in our forecasting work. I'll just keep going here. What are examples of previous work products? We
Okay, can you hear me now? So examples of work products would be things that were developed by your company that would demonstrate the ability to complete the tasks that we're asking to be completed under this contract. So it may be reports, it may be past experience, doing data analysis, writing code, things like that.
Yeah. So for that, it is in the manual, page 11, for the question, if awarded the contract, what is the timeline of when invoice will be processed and paid during the contract? So regarding invoice, it is the due date is within 15 calendar days after the end of the reporting period. It is stated in page 11 of the manual.
So the next question is there a site where we can start reviewing the structural and methodological aspects of CEC models as required in the task 3 activities? I believe there are some links within the solicitation that point to say our IBER report, which describes our overall forecast development process. You know, off the top of my head, I don't recall all of what is listed there, but that would be perhaps a good place to start. I think most of the descriptions of some of the best descriptions of our process are contained in the presentations that we have given at IBER workshops and demand analysis working group meetings. And that's probably the best documentation.
Okay.
So next question is similar to the first question. The RFP describes a workflow centered on wharf-based dynamical downscaling. The morphing method is an alternative statistical approach well established in the peer-reviewed literature that translates CMIP6 projections into localized hourly weather data by shifting and scaling historical observations. Would CEC find value in a contractor providing morphing-based outputs alongside WRF results as an independent analytical reference, for example, to cross-check HTD, CDD projections, or support the stochastic dataset development in task 3? Heidi, it says here that you would like to. Oh, no, you're just indicating that we're answering the next. I think I don't want to dismiss that out of hand. I know I said in response to the first question that we're interested in leveraging the work that has been done up to this point. Um, I think, though, that it might come down to a matter of priorities, right? And what we, are trying to accomplish within this, within our objectives that we're trying to support with this solicitation. So I think it's going to be driven primarily by our forecast needs and the products that we're developing, specifically the stochastic data set. So to the extent that any analytical approach is feasible, within kind of what we have allocated for this solicitation, right, for this agreement, and it seems to be, the most reasonable approach toward, developing the stochastic data sets, in the way that we need to develop them. I think, if it does seem like a reasonable approach, then it would certainly be something to consider. But like I said, we have a lot of competing kind of objectives and priorities related to integrating climate in our forecast, and I wouldn't want to. I wouldn't want to kind of prioritize necessarily redeveloping things that we already have that we are already comfortable with, in lieu of kind of pursuing some of our other objectives. So the next question, can we subcontract out to universities that are outside of California? And it's going to take.
Yeah, I see quite a few questions in here about out of state or out of country contractors or subcontractors, and any companies, LLCs, et cetera, that conduct business in California are required to be registered and in good standing with the California Secretary of State prior to the project being recommended for approval at a CEC business meeting. You can get more information on that at sos.ca.gov, and we can include more information on that in the Q&A document that we'll post. I see Julie has their hand raised. I think you can unmute and ask your question.
Thanks so much. I had a follow-up question. So I read about businesses and contractors. My question is, how does that apply to universities? Is it one and the same? Is it different? Can you speak to that at all? Thank you. I appreciate the input.
I'm sorry, Julie. Could you repeat the question for us, please?
Yes. Sorry, couldn't tell if I was unmuted. How does I saw the information about contractors and businesses. How does that apply to universities? Is it the same? Are the universities treated differently? Can you speak to that at all?
We can certainly clarify that in the Q&A. I'm not sure. I think we have Natalia on the line with our grants and loans office. Do you have any additional information on that?
You're going to have to clarify that on the Q&A document that comes out. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
There's also a question about clarifying the 3% DVBE participation requirement. Is it required to submit bids, or is it required for additional scoring? I will go back to that slide really quick. So there is a 3% mandatory participation, and then participation above 3% does get you incentive points.
Take one of these questions in the Q&A. Will the CEC make the models using the climate model data developed available to the selected vendor? I think if it makes sense to do that, I think we have done that in the past with support contracts where making the model available really facilitated the contractor understanding what it was we needed. So yeah, that's certainly an option. I think it would depend on the specific thing that we were trying to accomplish, but potentially yes. With respect to deliverables from task 3, climate impacted supply and demand model inputs, can the work only focus on climate impacted supply modeling, or does it need to be both? Yeah, it would definitely need to be both. So we have for example, and with our demand forecasting team, we have objectives for a lot of the modeling that we're doing that are intending to support reliability assessments, electricity system reliability assessments. And so, yeah, the component of that is, of course, aspects of the supply system, which can also be impacted by climate. So I think we would want to be both of our supply modeling assumptions and methods and our demand modeling assumptions and methods need to be consistent and correlated as best they can.
Yeah, so for the question, are letters of support permitted? Yes.
Yeah, so these questions about required breakdowns of hours per task or the expected hours included, these are just estimates. We'll be looking at their proposals to make sure that what is proposed makes sense. And then anything that when we do select a contractor, we will hold a kickoff meeting, and so at that point we'll be able to revisit the hours available for the tasks, as well as timelines. Natalia, is there anything that you'd like to add on those forms?
No, I'd like to see the direct question and we can answer it on the Q&A. No, since I'm on, Julie, I have a quick question for you. The follow-up question that you asked a little bit ago, can you submit that in the Q&A so we have a record of that? If you can, I'd
Oh, I
appreciate
see.
that.
Yes.
Thank
Happy
you,
to.
appreciate
Thanks.
it. Mhm.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So for Asante, for the question, which contractors provided service to the CEC for the prior GCM-based demand analysis work, it is Lumen Energy.
So I'm gonna take a couple more of the questions in the chat here. You please clarify what you'd like to see regarding accounting for wildfires, given that wildfire smoke is not part of the CalAdapt data. I think the wildfire question comes up frequently in reliability assessments. I think this is one area where we have spent less time on the demand side thinking about wildfire impacts. And while wildfire smoke isn't part of the CalAdapt data set, we don't want to rule out wanting to do some analysis in this area, maybe trying to, well, I don't want to go too far out on a limb here, but I think this we identified this as a particular concern for system reliability planners, and so just wanted to tag that as something that might be an area that we would want to investigate. I think this could potentially depend on what our supply modelers are um, doing in particular. CalAdapt doesn't have to be our only data source, right? But we are looking to, as much as possible, use kind of public-facing inputs. We also have a question. Are there examples of work you're looking for that would be acceptable to meet qualifications? Do they have to be modeling that has been used for utilities? I think the second part of that question is easier to answer. No, they don't have to be modeling that has been used for utilities. I think generally the solicitation broadly outlines kind of analytical experience with climate and forecasting, reliability assessments, those sorts of things would obviously be very relevant. how do you expect behind the meter solar to be treated? Are you aiming to project load or net load? Actually, both. So we have models that are based around um, uh, customer load, independent of how that load's being served. We call those our consumption models. We also have models that are aimed at load net of behind the meter generation. Both are relevant to our work. We have internally models for adoption of behind the meter resources and their operation, generation. So, to some extent, part of the support we would be looking for would be developing correlated inputs to those models that are correlated with some of the other climate impacted weather inputs that we are using.
In this list, and the presentation will be available in the web page.
Yeah, I see a follow-up question about businesses being in good standing in California and how that applies to universities. Are universities allowed to contract some of the work to universities that are out of state? So again, we do have information. I would encourage you to look at the Secretary of State webpage to see what information they have there, and we will clarify that in our Q&A document.
Thanks. I was just putting it in the Q&A for record. Sorry.
I see a question about, is there a page limitation on written responses? No, there is no page limitation. Who is eligible to provide support letters? If I don't believe that is part of the requirements of the solicitation, so we can't really speak to that. And there's another question here. So the goal is to use the new WRF data to brief DOG and decision-making based on the modeling. Would plan be part of the deliverables?
So I'm gonna reframe that a little bit. So the goal, like briefing DOG and decision makers would potentially be part of what we are looking for in terms of support, but it would be more geared toward explaining what it is that we are doing to incorporate climate into our modeling efforts. So this would, I think that's really the focus of what those briefings would be. Not, I don't know if your question is, I don't know what the plan reference is in your question, but certainly we're not looking for the awardee to be proposing policy related plans or anything along those lines. This is more about just the modeling framework.
I see another question here. Can you clarify whether the contractor is expected to provide their own computing system infrastructure for processing the climate database and generating stochastic database, or if the CEC will provide access to any internal resources such as cloud environments or HPC system? I don't believe that we will be providing any of those resources, but we will clarify in the Q&A doc as well. See another question here. Attachment 6 on client references. Who can be relevant climate references or client references? So yeah, these would be clients that you have done similar work with, who can speak to your abilities and skills doing similar work to what we're asking for under this contract. All right, next question. Are prime contractors allowed to include a profit margin on this work? We noticed that attachment 7, tab category budget and tab indirect rate and profit include a note that reads profits not allowed for grant recipients. This is we're looking to award a contract, not a grant, but maybe Natalia, you can speak to this a little bit, and or we can clarify in the Q&A.
We can clarify it in the Q&A. Thank you.
All right, next question. The title for task 5 includes the phrase 10% contingency for the budget sheet lists, and the budget sheet lists 80 hours of total time expected for this task. Can CEC please elaborate what 10% contingency means? 80 hours does not represent 10% of the budgeted hours. So this includes work that is not currently available or is not currently scoped out under the existing tasks. And yeah, thank you for pointing that out. We may just provide a little addenda to that when we post the Q&As. So thank you, Karen. Next question, is cost share permitted / encouraged? I don't believe there is a cost share requirement under this contract. That's more typical for grants and loans. So no, unless Natalia, you have additional information.
No, we'd have to clarify in the Q&A.
Great, thank you. Okay, we're not seeing any additional open questions in the Q&A or the chat, but we can give it an extra minute if there are other questions. Just want to thank you all for your participation today. Next steps, we will be posting the Q&A document next week. And so look for that to be posted on our RFP webpage. We'll also be posting the recording of this pre-bid workshop. Proposals are due March 25th by 11:59 p.m. And looking forward to seeing the bids coming in. Thank you, everybody.